Now, typical band exercises are pretty popular for shoulder. I don't look at these as something that I do spend like 20-30 minutes on. I want to use this to maybe burn up my rotator cuff a little bit, and then if I'm able to get through a lot of these sequences, these are a good warm-up to activity to maybe get the shoulder engaged prior to doing some of the heavier lifting stuff that you would do in your gym. So typically I only have people do one set of each of these so they're not spending forever pulling on these bands. So one of the basic ones, and all of these are pretty popular, but the small little details I think are often missed. So as I start off coming into this external rotation, sometimes people put a small wedge between their elbow and their side to make sure their elbow is not lifted out, which is a good idea. Not absolutely required if you can keep your elbow position. The concept of the shoulder blade position is most important. So as I start off here, this whole shoulder blade down and back position is what I want to keep in mind. So I start off there, and then I pull this out to the side, keeping my elbow down against my rib cage for the most part, coming back in slowly. Now, I don't emphasize a lot of coming the whole way to the belly. This movement is meant to engage a muscle that crosses right across the back of the shoulder, infraspinatus, teres minor, the back part of your rotator cuff. A lot of people, as they're doing this, will feel here or the front of the shoulder, which is not what you're meant to engage. So this squeezing back, you want to feel stuff happen back into this armpit, or at least the back part of the shoulder, not the side. So that's where I feel like as people come all the way across, they let this shoulder drift forward, and they end up doing stuff that puts more pressure here. So really starting off with this down and back, and I'll start people more in this neutral, really focusing on the out to the side position. Slow and controlled, 10 to 20 times, and then one set and you're moving on, okay? I'm going to do the other arm so you can see, but to now pull inward, I'm going to step away, and I'm going to start with tension on this band, okay? Same positional stuff, down and back. I'm going to pull in towards my belly, making sure that my shoulder blade doesn't creep up with me. I keep that down and back, slowly going out to the side and back in. 10 to 20 times. So you have pulling outward and pulling inward. That's going to be the same thing when we change the plane of the motion. So now instead of my arm being at my side, I'm going to come further out. The higher I come, the more stress or difficulty with the shoulder. So if this starts to pinch, lowering your elbow just a little will probably be more comfortable. So for this one, I'm going to start off with some tension, and I do a little bit of a row. So I pull my arm so that my elbow is about the same plane as my shoulder. Okay. Now as I do this, and I get a little bit of tension here, same shoulder down and back as I rotate. Okay. Back, forward, slow to here. As I come back, I'm really thinking about squeezing that shoulder down and back to keep this feeling in this lower aspect of my shoulder. And as I come back, not when I'm fatigued, I start to hike this thing up to where I'm actually doing more harm than good. So keeping that downward pressure as I pull, and if it feels okay, you can even do it up at this 90-degree realm. Same thing as I rotate, when I'm getting to this zone, I'm really thinking about pulling downward as I squeeze this back, not hiking my shoulder up to get it done. Okay? Same concept with coming forward. I'll just show you on my other hand. Coming out now to where I feel some tension to start, and I will just rotate forward, slowly loading back, and then coming forward can be a little bit quicker, up more at this 90-90 position. And this one, it may feel more comfortable to have one foot in front. Either foot is fine. I'm going to do my opposite foot with a small bend in my knee, slowly loading back. And then here, I'm going to lightly engage my stomach a little bit as I come forward to make sure as I start to pull forward, my lower back is not arching. A lot of times that's a problem with pitchers or throwers, is that they lose that trunk control and they pay the price further down the chain at their arm and their shoulder because their back is opening up. So I really encourage, especially as this is maybe more difficult, stomach engaged, pull forward, very slow lowering back, and as soon as you initiate that forward motion, coming forward. We're looking for 10 to 20 in each one of these directions. And then the last one I like is a press while you keep tension on the back part of the rotator cuff. So I come back to that same position where I was doing the external rotation or pulling back, and I keep that tension as I do a press. So coming up slow and coming down slow. I could do this with the band wrapped around the post and have it in the other hand as well while I was doing it, but just a very slow and controlled press up, press down. I'm really trying to make sure I keep my forearm vertical. And as I get tired, I don't start to let this creep forward, because now that also is going to load the shoulder joint in an abnormal manner. So that shoulder down and back pressure, if If I have the band across to wrap around something to do both sides, that's usually helpful. To come all the way up and come down. So rather than pressing upward where the weight's pushing down on my shoulder, the force is coming from the front to make me engage more of this weaker zone.